Sam Johnson's hands trembled as he stared at the photograph. 15 years ago, his daughter Maya had died in an accident at this exact location. Now another young girl's body lay in the same spot. Same location, same injuries, same suspicious story. In that moment, Sam realized his daughter had never been in an accident at all, and the truth he was about to uncover would expose a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of Detroit's power structure. The coffee in his mug had gone cold hours ago, but Sam barely noticed. The newspaper photograph seemed to mock him from the kitchen table. Another life lost, another family destroyed, another convenient accident that would be quickly forgotten. Don't forget to leave your city and location in the comments below. Remember, every comment is a voice. Every voice is a change. What about you? Have you ever encountered an event or situation like this? Leave a comment. We'd love to hear your story. Detroit, Michigan, October 12, 2023. Detective Sam Johnson, now 58 and retired for 3 years, sat in his small apartment reading the morning newspaper. The headline caught his eye immediately. Young woman found dead at Riverside Drive Bridge. Police investigate possible accident. Riverside Drive Bridge, the same location where his daughter Maya had died 15 years ago. Maya Johnson had been 22 years old, a recent college graduate working as a community organizer in Detroit's East Side. Passionate about social justice and unafraid to challenge authority, she had been investigating housing discrimination in the weeks before her death. On the night of March 18, 2008, her car had supposedly skidded off the wet road and crashed through the bridge railing into the Detroit River below. She had been found 3 days later, 200 yards downstream. The police investigation lasted exactly 5 days. Cause of death: accidental drowning. Case closed. Sam had been a detective for 12 years at that point, but when it came to his own daughter's death, he had been told to step aside. Too close to the case, they said. Let other detectives handle it. And Sam, grieving and broken, had complied. For 15 years, he had carried the guilt of not fighting harder for answers. For 15 years, he had accepted the official story. Until now, the similarities were too obvious to ignore. Both victims were young women. Both were investigating corruption. Both died at the same location in suspicious circumstances. Sam Johnson had joined the Detroit Police Department in 1996, full of hope and determination to make a difference in his community. As one of the few black detectives in his precinct, he had faced his share of challenges, but he had earned respect through hard work and an impressive case clearance rate. Maya had been his pride and joy. Smart, passionate, and determined to fight injustice wherever she found it. She had majored in social work at Wayne State University and was working to improve conditions in Detroit's most neglected neighborhoods. After losing his wife Sarah to cancer when Maya was 14, Sam and his daughter had grown even closer. She would often help him with cases, offering insights that came from her work in the community. "Dad, you see crime as individual acts," she would say, "but I see the systems that create criminals." In the weeks before her death, Maya had been investigating housing discrimination in the city. She had told Sam about corrupt landlords, illegal evictions, and powerful people who were displacing low-income families for profit. "Dad, these people think they're untouchable," she had said during their last conversation. "But I'm going to expose them." 3 days later, she was dead. What Sam didn't know was that his daughter's investigation had brought her dangerously close to exposing a network of corruption that involved some of Detroit's most powerful families. Sam drove to Riverside Drive Bridge for the first time in 15 years. The sight of the location brought back a flood of painful memories, but he forced himself to focus on the present case. Detective Maria Santos, a young Latina officer Sam had mentored before his retirement, met him at the scene. She had called him as soon as she recognized the similarities to Maya's case. "Sam, I know this must be difficult for you," she said gently. "Tell me about this new case, Maria. What happened here?" 23-year-old Jennifer Williams, found dead yesterday morning, same as your Maya. Car went through the railing, body found downstream. Sam examined the crash site. The damage to the railing looked almost identical to what he remembered from Maya's case. But something felt wrong about the scene. The skid marks were too controlled, too precise for a panicked driver losing control. What was she working on? Sam asked. She was a journalist for the Detroit Free Press. Investigative reporter. Sam's blood ran cold. What kind of stories? Housing, corruption, government contracts. She was about to publish a major expose about illegal development deals, The parallels were too obvious to ignore. Both young women, both investigating corruption, both dead at the same location in suspicious accidents. Maria, I need you to run a search for me. Look for other suspicious deaths connected to housing investigations or development projects. What Sam discovered next would reveal that his daughter's death was part of a pattern that had been hidden for over a decade. That evening, Sam pulled out boxes he hadn't opened in 15 years. Maya's personal effects, her laptop, her investigation files, everything the police had returned to him after the case was closed. For the first time since her death, Sam opened Maya's laptop and began reading her files. What he found made his hands shake. Maya had been investigating the Blackstone Development Company, owned by one of Detroit's wealthiest families, the Montgomerys. She had documented illegal evictions, bribes to city officials, and a systematic campaign to displace black families from valuable properties. Her files contained photographs of intimidated residents, financial records showing suspicious transactions, and recorded interviews with victims who had been too afraid to speak to police. But it was her final entry, dated just 2 days before her death, that stopped Sam's heart. Meeting with source tomorrow night. He says he has proof that Blackstone is connected to 3 suspicious deaths of activists who oppose their projects. If this is true, we can bring them all down. Maya had never made it to that meeting. Sam called Detective Santos immediately. Maria, I need you to look something up. Check if there have been other suspicious deaths connected to people investigating Blackstone development. 20 minutes later, Santos called back with information that would change everything. Sam, in the past 10 years, 4 activists, 2 journalists, and 1 city councilman have died in accidents while investigating or opposing Blackstone projects. 7 people dead. All convenient accidents. All quickly closed cases. What Sam found in Maya's hidden files would expose a murder conspiracy that had been operating in plain sight for over a decade. Sam discovered that Maya had been more thorough than he had ever imagined. Hidden in her laptop were encrypted files containing photos, audio recordings, and financial documents that painted a picture of systematic corruption. The most damning evidence was a series of audio recordings Maya had made during her investigation. In one, a Blackstone employee discussed permanent solutions for problematic activists. In another, Sam heard a voice he recognized, Police Captain Robert Mitchell, discussing how to handle troublesome investigations. The girl's getting too close, Mitchell's voice said on the recording. She's asking questions about the Johnson thing and the Martinez incident. We need to shut this down. What do you suggest? The other voice was unfamiliar but authoritative. Same thing we did before. Redirect, delay, and if necessary, range an accident. Riverside Drive has been very effective. Sam had to pause the recording. His own captain had been discussing his daughter's murder as routine business, but it was the final recording that made Sam realize the full scope of the conspiracy. Maya's voice, recorded on the day she died. If something happens to me, look for the pattern. Blackstone doesn't just destroy buildings, they destroy people. And they have police protection at the highest levels. Maya had been smart. She had hidden copies of everything. And now, Sam had the evidence that could bring down everyone involved. What Sam didn't realize was that discovering this evidence had put him in the same danger that had killed his daughter 15 years ago. The next morning, Sam received a phone call that chilled him to the bone. Detective Johnson? The voice was disguised, electronic. I'm retired. We know who you are. We know what you found. Drop this investigation now or you'll join your daughter. Who is this? Someone who knows that accidents can happen to retired detectives too. The line went dead. Sam sat in his kitchen, staring at the phone. For 15 years, he had lived with guilt and grief. Now, he faced a choice: pursue justice for Maya and risk his own life, or let her killers continue operating with impunity. He thought about the other families who had lost loved ones, about the communities being destroyed by Blackstone's corruption, about the young journalist whose body had just been found at the same location where Maya died. Sam made his decision. He was going to finish what Maya had started, but first, he needed help, and he knew exactly who to call. What Sam didn't know was that his decision to pursue justice would trigger a chain of events that would expose the conspiracy to its very core. Sam called his old partner, Detective Mike Rodriguez, who is now working with the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. Mike, I need to show you something, but not over the phone. Can you come to my place? 2 hours later, Rodriguez was sitting in Sam's living room, staring at the evidence Maya had compiled. Jesus, Sam, this is real. It's real. Maya died because she found this. And now, they're killing it. Iguez was quiet for a long moment. You know what this means. We're talking about taking down one of the most powerful families in Detroit. The Montgomerys have connections everywhere. Then we better make sure we do it right. Over the next week, Sam and Rodriguez worked with federal investigators to build an airtight case. They connected the dots between Blackstone development, corrupt city officials, and the suspicious deaths of 7 people over 10 years. The FBI discovered that the Montgomerys had been using police connections to intimidate witnesses, bury investigations, and when necessary, arrange accidents for people who got too close to the truth. Captain Robert Mitchell, the police officer heard on Maya's recordings, had been receiving payments from Blackstone for over a decade in exchange for protecting their operations. The corruption went deeper than anyone had imagined. The FBI found evidence connecting Blackstone to judges, building inspectors, and city officials who had all been part of the conspiracy. The FBI set up an elaborate sting operation. They arranged for an undercover agent to pose as an activist, threatening to expose Blackstone's corruption. Special Agent Sarah Chen studied Maya's methods and replicated her investigation, using some of the same sources Maya had cultivated years earlier. Within 48 hours, the agent received the same threatening phone call Sam had received. Within a week, plans were being made for another accident. The operation culminated in a dramatic warehouse meeting where FBI agents recorded Blackstone operatives discussing how to eliminate the undercover agent. The recordings captured not only the murder conspiracy, but also confessions about previous killings, including Maya's. The Johnson girl was getting too close. Harold Montgomery III could be heard saying, "We had no choice but to arrange the accident." Same with the Williams journalist last week. When federal agents moved in to make arrests, they had enough evidence to charge 17 people with murder, conspiracy, corruption, and civil rights violations. Among those arrested were Harold Montgomery III, Blackstone's owner, Captain Robert Mitchell, 2 other police officers, 3 city officials, and several Blackstone employees. During the federal trial, the full scope of the conspiracy was revealed. The Montgomerys had been systematically murdering anyone who threatened their illegal operations. Maya Johnson had been killed because her investigation would have exposed bribes, illegal evictions, and previous murders. The method was always the same: staged accidents at Riverside Drive Bridge, with police corruption ensuring the investigations were quickly closed. Sam testified at the trial, presenting Maya's evidence and telling the story of his 15-year quest for truth. As he spoke about his daughter's courage and determination, he realized that Maya had not died in vain. Her investigation was finally bringing down the people who had destroyed so many lives. The prosecution showed that the conspiracy had been responsible for the illegal displacement of over 3,000 families and millions of dollars in fraudulent contracts. Harold Montgomery III was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Captain Mitchell received 25 years. The other conspirators received sentences ranging from 10 to 20 years. 1 year later, Sam Johnson stood at Maya's grave with his granddaughter Zoe, now 17. He had finally been able to tell Maya's story not as a victim of a tragic accident, but as a hero who had exposed corruption and saved countless future victims. The city of Detroit had established the Maya Johnson Foundation for Investigative Journalism, providing resources and protection for reporters investigating corruption. Riverside Drive Bridge now bore a memorial plaque honoring all the victims of the Blackstone conspiracy. "Grandpa," Zoe said, "do you think Aunt Maya would be proud?" Sam smiled, feeling at peace for the first time in 15 years. "I think she'd be proud that we finished what she started. And I think she'd want us to keep fighting for justice, no matter how long it takes." As they walked away from the cemetery, Sam carried with him not guilt and grief, but pride in his daughter's courage and satisfaction that justice had finally been served. The foundation had already helped expose 2 other corruption cases, and Maya's story had inspired a new generation of investigative journalists who refused to be intimidated by powerful interests. The truth may be buried for years, but it never dies. Sometimes justice takes a generation to achieve, but those who fight for what's right will eventually triumph over those who abuse their power. Maya Johnson's legacy wasn't her death, it was the corruption she exposed and the lives she saved. Don't forget to leave your city and location in the comments below. Remember, every comment is a voice. Every voice is a change. What about you? Have you ever encountered an event or situation like this? Leave a comment. We'd love to hear your story.